In this video, we are going to discuss matrix row operations. And so we will use these operations in the future to reduce matrices to a certain form called reduced row echelon form. And that will allow us to solve for the variables being represented by the matrices. So our row operations include the following. So we can interchange rows. So we can switch out row 1 with row 2, for example, or row 2 with row 7, or whatever the case is. We can switch rows whenever we want, and that's fine. We can also multiply a row by a constant. So before we talked about scalar multiplication, and we said that we can multiply each element of a matrix by a certain scalar or a certain factor. We can also do that with a row. So we can just multiply a row by a constant. We can add the product of a row multiplied by a constant to another row. So we can take something like we did in the previous one, right? Multiply a row by a constant, and then add that to another row. Let's see these in action so we can kind of get a better idea for what they are and what we can do. So given matrix A, complete the listed row operations. So for number 1, I simply want to interchange rows 1 and 2. So that's what that double-sided arrow means here. We want to interchange rows 1 and 2. So that means row 2 is now going to become row 1, and row 1 is now going to become row 2. And that's it. That's all we have to do in this one is just interchange the rows. Okay, let's look at number 3. So this is an example of the second row operation. We want to multiply row 1 by 3. So just row 1. So row 1 is getting multiplied by 3. Okay, so that means 4 times 3 is 12. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And 0 times 3 is 0. So again, 3 is being multiplied by each element in row 1. We're not doing anything to the other rows. It doesn't give us any directions about the other rows. So we're going to leave those the same. And that's it. All right, number 3. So before I do number 3 really quickly here, this is what I used for my reference. So some of the wording or examples may look similar or be the same as the OpenStax College Algebra textbook. There is the URL. You can visit that if you'd like. There are a lot of good examples there. All right, so number 3, we want to multiply row 2 by negative 2 and then add that to row 3. Then that result, we want to replace row 3 with that result. Okay, so I should have had that on there. So let us look. Row 2, we want to multiply by negative 2. So row 2 is 3, 11, negative 3. So if I'm multiplying all of that by negative 2, that means I'm going to multiply each element by negative 2. So that'll give me negative 6, negative 22, and a positive 6. And then I want to add that to row 3. So here's row 2 now, plus row 3. So row 3 is 7, 17, 1. So I'm going to add those together and get 1, negative 5, and 7. And now this is the new row 3. So my matrix, my row 1 and row 2 are not going to change. So 4, negative 2, 0. 3, 11, negative 3. And now I have a new row 3, 1, negative 5, 7. So even though I used row 2 in my row operations, I'm not changing row 2 permanently. I'm just doing this operation so that I can replace row 3. with some multiple of row 2 plus the row 3. All of these row operations, while they seem rather arbitrary just learning them, you will see that we're going to use these to reduce matrices in the next few lessons.